The Etunupe is the traditional title for the most superior emir of the Nupe land. The people who are called the Nupes are found predominantly in Niger State. The Etunupe Palace is located in Bida West in Niger State, along Bida Road, next to Bida Local Government Secretariat. The Etunupe's Palace is also referred to in a local language, which is the Hausa language, as the Hakoringiwa. It is also interpreted in English as elephant teeth, but in the Nupe native language, it is called the Katamba. The Katamba Palace was constructed in 1935 by Sarkin Guinea Muhammad Egba. The Katamba Palace has been used by the ruling families of the Nupes, who are all sons of Malam Dendo. However, out of the 7 sons of Malam Dendo, there are only 3 ruling families, emerging from 3 sons. The genealogy begins in 1856. Since then, 10 emirs have reigned successfully, except Etunupe Usman Sarki, who was sent away on exile. The 13th Etunupe is known as Yahaya Abubakar. He is the present ruler. Physical description of the Katamba Palace. The materials that were used on the construction of the Katamba Palace, also known as Hakoringiwa, includes Baudungi, which is mud/clay. We also have the Egu, Makuba, Nongu, which is grass/straw. We also have Dogo, which is cocoa palm. There is also Azora, which is the ashes, and Esegi. Katamba Palace, like other traditional buildings in the north, are glazed by Makumba, and they are to smoothen the wall to show the architectural aesthetics. Makumba is also used as an insect repellent. The roof is made of mud and grass, and the ceiling is made of typical traditional asabiri. China plates are also attached to the walls for aesthetics. The palace has visible Arabic inscription and is painted brown and white. The Hakoringiwa, which is the Katamba Palace, is a round traditional building adapted from northern architecture known as the Gidan Suru. The palace occupied about 500 meters. The main entrance has a height of 5 feet with a thickness of the wall of 2 feet 33 inches and the arch entrance of 4 feet 57 inches. The main entrance has a wooden door called Pako. This is the door to the walkway of the Etunupe known as Daidai. It leads to the Etu Katamba called the sitting room/reception for attending to visitors and his subject. This cultural heritage is a single round palace comprising of 4 rooms and a cell for offenders, 2 entrances with one from the front view of the palace, has 5 arched entrances, that is the typical northern traditional architecture. The monument, which is the building, is seen in the mud dome of the building. The wooden door panel is in zoomorphic and anthropomorphic designs. It represents a practical but exquisite example of traditional architecture and craftsmanship from the north, with a particular reference to the Nupe people of north-central Nigeria. The value and significance of the Katamba Palace. The wealth of this site brings to bear the religious, ceremonial, and agricultural heritage, which give us a sense of future with the past and the present. The culture and value, which plays a significant role till date, are as follows. It serves as a conference/meeting venue known as Unko for the royal/title holders on Fridays to discuss ways forward for the Emirates. The Katamba was used also as a palace for any princess, either from maternal or paternal side, to be married. It takes place as the Sheba Palace, which is owned by Umaru Magaji. At evening, newly wedded brides, that is the princesses, are brought to the Hakoringiwa as a mark of royalty, where the royal flutists sound the musical instrument known as the kakaki. Other weddings can take place there, but without the royal blessing. Funerals and naming ceremonies of the royal and subject take place also at the Hakoringiwa. Factors affecting the monuments. The heritage property mostly is being affected by climate change, such as rainfall, which affect the mold and the thatch roof. However, the Katamba Palace is in consistent care and its preservation is of utmost importance to the Emir. Protection and management of the site. This brings to bear the ownership, protective designation, customary law, and administrative procedure of the heritage site. Hakoringiwa is owned by Bidda Emirates. It is protected by the palace guards. The customary law is that women only come into the palace at early hours in case of emergencies, before early morning prayer, which is known as Asuba. The Nupe Emirate also hold women who contribute to society in high esteem. They are the Sagi Nupe. They also have the Niwoye Nupe. We also have the Soniya Nupe, who are mentioned in their hierarchy. And the first two are restricted to the royal family alone, while the last is for the commoners. She is in charge of the market women, the Etsu's maids, and the midwives to his wives. These are women of power who foster unity and coordinate the affairs of women in the land. These are also women allowed in the Hakoringiwa. The Etsunupe give directives on all administrative procedures and everyone is answerable to him.
Imuke Enya is my name, curator of OCC Museum, Calabar. You are welcome to Mary Cecil's house here in Akwakoyo in Dupani local government of Cross River State. This building was erected in 1889 by a missionary carpenter called Uwe to house the property of Mary Cecil itself. He lived here in this building for about 40 years as a judge, I think serving as a judge, administrator, and equally as a missionary. He mixed with the people freely and interact with them and speak the Efik language fluently. Because of that, he was known as the White Queen of the Okoyom town. The building itself is a one-story building that is made up of iron sheet wall and wooden windows with 21 staircase. You can see the staircase and supported with 2 pillars to make the house stand erect and be strong. Come with me as we take a tour of the building. This is the 21 staircase I was talking about. You can look at it and see very well that leads to the first floor of the building. This is the corridor where you used to sit and enjoy fresh air, looking at the veranda and around you. This is the parlor that she was using in receiving her friends or visitors. You can see the lantern stand, the lantern antenna provide light for him, and you can see the furniture, the chairs and the attributes, and equally the wall clock that is telling her time. Here is the bedroom. You can see the bedroom, you can see the bed here where she used to sleep, and because her main activity here was stopping the killing of her twins. You can see the 2 twin baby bed that to depict what that she was working for the twins, and you can see the baby, even the babies used to twin babies to lie down. That is the 2 beds here, and you can see a wooden box and this mirror here standing where he used to dress during a period when he was staying here. The building itself had lasted over 101 years. Oh, you can see everything here. This is another room that was used for the visitors to stay. But today, it has been turned into a gallery showcasing the British life history and work in the Akwabuyo, I mean the Akwabuyo. So you can see it. That's the gallery here, pictorial gallery that is telling you anything about my social activities in Akwabuyo, where he stay and work for 40 years. This is a bad view of the building. You can see where the other side is the where you see the is the kitchen side that they use for the cooking from the. Then here you have three rooms. The first room was served as a court because the was a judge, something dispute in the village. So you can see this place. The first room here was used as a room for that served as a court. The second one served as a church because it was a missionary that was preaching the gospel to stop the twin of twins. So you can see the house, the room here that was used as a church. The last one was for his visitor to stay and for his household to stay and take care of the twins. This is a Tayin, the caretaker of Mrs. Obiria in Akwa Okoyo. Let's hear from you.
Okay, my name is Tayin. I'm the caretaker of this place. I work here more than 15 years now. So the problem that I have here is the building. The ceiling aspal and the bed came in and destroyed some certain things here, sir. So I'm calling from the community, the government, and friends to come and help us, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Heritage NAIJA 2.0. My name is Samson Faboy, and on behalf of the Emerging Professionals Working Group of the International Council of Monuments and Sites Nigeria Committee, I want to welcome everybody to this this occasion. As we are aware, October 1st happens to be Nigeria's National Day, where Nigerians commemorate the political independence, as we could say, from Great Britain in 1960. So we want to welcome everybody. I could see people, invitees from the Shared Built Heritage. I could see invitees from, I could see our colleagues from e-commerce Nigeria. We're all welcome. This is an interactive session. And we just featured the Katamba Palace and Mary Slessor House. We right now would want to listen to a welcome speech from the president of e-commerce Nigeria, Mr. Aliyu Las Abdu, who I think is online. And the floor is open for you, sir, Mr. Aliyu, to open this occasion. Mr. Aliyu?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Aliyu speaking.
Yes, you're audible.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone. After so much efforts, I've been able to connect to you, but the connection is very fragile. I don't even know whether you can hear me now.
We can hear you, we can hear you. It's okay if your video is off.
Yes.
Yeah, it's okay if your video is off.
I just feel that I just feel obliged that I should really join you to give my blessing of welcome address on this very important occasion. But actually, I am outside. I'm in a very remote area in Cameroon, together with the site manager of Sukur Cultural Landscape in pursuit of the extension of Sukuru cultural landscape to incorporate the DGB side of Cameroon. And where we are in Mokolo, the network is very, very weak and fragile. So I just want to tender my apology and express my gratitude and happiness for the efforts you have been making in order to put this webinar along. Hello?
Yes, you are audible,
Hi.
sir. You are audible, you are audible. You're fine. You are fine, sir.
Hello?
Hello, you are audible. You could keep speaking, please.
So you see, I'm very sorry if you cannot.
No, you are audible. Keep speaking.
Okay.
Sir.
So yeah. Okay. So where I am now is not very convenient and with the network. But frankly, I want to really appreciate the effort, all the efforts that you have been putting across to make this webinar possible, and to tender my own apology and the apology of the site manager that we are actually in the field.
Okay, we have, that's Mr. Liu, the president of e-commerce Nigeria. I think we've lost him, but most importantly, we've heard his voice welcoming us to welcoming everybody and officially opening this program. So we'll go on with our series of videos. We have the Essay Museum coming up, so it's taking the floor shortly.
The first reciprocity center in Nigeria, established in 1945 at the site of the famous Asia soapstone images. The site is in Asia, one of the ancient towns of Igbomina ethnic group in the Irepodu local government area in Kwara South Senatorial District. It is about 24 kilometers and 56 kilometers from Omaran, the seat of the local government area and the state capital, respectively. On the global map, the site of the images is approximately on the coordinate longitude 5 degrees 4 seconds east and 8 degrees 5 seconds north. Yeah. Here is the car park within the site. This is the entrance to the site. Yeah. The site, formerly a groove, surrounded by a species of the Asina plant, locally called Peregun, 1,000 soapstones sculptures discovered in 1775 in situ in a semicircle form, presided over by the king of the images, Oba Ere. Yeah. This is the entrance to the gallery housing the stone images. The images range in height from 14 centimeter to over 1 meter and weigh 0.55 kilogram to 105 kilogram. The sculptures represent the largest carved human figure in the whole world. They reflect the past society and their vocations. It consists of men, women, children in their traditional attires, as well as animals. The site presently consists of the museum galleries,
Okay.
the shrine, and the spot of the discovery, etc.
Yes, so we just had the video of SCA Museum. It happens to be the first museum in Nigeria, and it's noted for its soapstone. So I'm going to be joined, before we take the keynote speech by a keynote address or presentation by Professor Patrick Opoku, who we're expecting to join us anytime soon. I'm joined by Dr. Ijeoma Onyenjikwe. So we will together draw out some keynotes from this, emanating from issues from the displayed videos. So, and we are also welcome to drop in our questions on the tax bar, or on the question and answer tab. We'll be treating them later on. We'll have a wider discussion on the house. So once again, I want to welcome everybody. This is Heritage Nigeria 2.0 organized by the Emerging Professional Work Group of E-Commerce Nigeria. Dr. Onyenjikwe, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Yes, welcome and good morning. Yes.
Good morning,
so
everyone.
Good morning. Yes, so we just had the videos from Katamba in Niger State. We had that of Mary Slessor and SA Museum. What are the keynotes, key points we want to draw out affecting heritage in this location that we want to draw the minds of our audience to?
All right, first we want to understand that these sites are historical sites. Mary Slessor is renowned for her activity in stopping the killing of twins in Nigeria. She's revered by the people of the Efik people and people in Akpabio. So and the site is also located in an undeveloped area. All these sites needs to be preserved so that we can understand in history people that brought important developments to us. Like this killing of twins was so rampant in the whole of the Southeast. In fact, it's what she did in Cross River State that actually stopped the killing of twins in the whole of the southeastern part of Nigeria, because the custom was the same everywhere. So today we wouldn't have had so many twins now, unlike in the Yoruba land where these twins are seen as gifts. They call them Ibeji. But here in the southeast, the Igbo-speaking part and Cross River, it was a taboo for them to have twins. Twins were seen as bad luck. They were seen as evil. The women that give birth to these children, and the children are sent into the evil forest. So for this custom to be stopped by Mary Slessor is a very great achievement. It has saved so many lives in Nigeria. So what we need to do is, these sites need to be preserved. Mary Slessor House is located in a place that in future, these areas are going to be developed. They need to be noted. The site needs to be noted by town planning authorities. It needs to be noted as an important site. The site needs to be promoted. It needs to be marketed. People need to visit the site and appreciate what this lady has done and how she has saved so many lives. Hello?
Yes, we're with you. The site is at Akpabio, Cross River State.
Yes.
So Mary Slessor was part of the Presbyterian movement who spread Christianity in southern Nigeria, and most importantly, remember her for stopping the killing of twins. And she died in 1915, and she's buried in Akwa Ibom State in Itu local government, somewhere there. Then what of SCA Museum?
All right, the Soapstones SCA Museum is the first museum in Nigeria. It was the first museum in Nigeria. The Soapstones has the largest collection of in the world. The museum is a great place to visit, and it needs to be protected so that the soapstones won't be stolen like other artifacts, like the Nok terracotta that most times is being stolen in places like Plateau when they are dug out from the ground. But so much needs to be done there. They need to protect, the site needs more funding. It needs more protective barriers right now because of the situation in Nigeria right now. The security in Nigeria is getting higher. So creating barriers, protective barriers to safeguard these antiquities is necessary and important, because for it to be the largest soapstone collection in the world is a great achievement. In fact, the site is said to be, legend has it that the site that there were people, it was a community that was existing, and all of a sudden everybody turned to soapstone. We don't know how true the legend is, but it's a very interesting thing to see, seeing hundreds and thousands of soapstones in form of like a community just lying there. It's a mysterious sight. So these are things we need to preserve and understand. How did it get there? Why is it there? Who made it? All these questions still need to be answered. So they need to be protected. We need to know how these things came about. We need to understand what happened in the past. Why are these soapstones there? What does it signify? What's the significance to the people living in that area? Is it important to them? Do they still value it in their lives? If it's touched or something happens to this, is there a taboo that happens to the people around? These are things we need to understand. We need to understand the link between these soapstones, the environment where it's found, and the people, the surrounding communities. So these are things we need to keep and we need to preserve.
Okay, I would want to also draw, conjectures. We know that the Ife and Benin and the Nok art are famous for their terracotta, and little research, although much research is still being done on the terracotta of the Ife, the Nok, and the Benin. Similarities have been drawn between that of the Benin and the Ife. So are we saying that we've not had research in that line for a same museum?
Well, depth of information still exists in the research concerning the soapstones in SCA. And some of these challenges is funding for research, which is low. They have the professionals that can go into these sites to do this, but the government of Nigeria needs to step up funding. And organizations in Nigeria, NGOs and local companies don't value all these cultural assets as much as foreigners do. So because they are in a position to be able to help the researchers to go down deep to understand these soapstones more. So that's why depth of information really exists. So we need professionals, we need funding, we need people to know about this site. We need to understand more about these soapstones, how it relates to the history of the people living in Ibomina in Kwara State. So these are things that we are looking out for in this Heritage Nigeria, to preserve our heritage, to understand our heritage, and to also to exploit some of the ingenuity in this aspect of our culture and our society. Hello?
Dr. Joma, can you continue?
Hello?
Can you continue what you're saying? We are hearing you. Can you continue, please?
Okay, I said that the Ibomina soapstone site in Kwara State is an important site. They need a lot of research to be carried out on the site. Unlike the Ife bronze and the Nok, the other terracottas found in Plateau and in Edo State, these Ibomina have not really gone down deep into research. Depth of research exists. This is because of low funding and lack of awareness and lack of interest in these soapstones. We need to create more awareness in the importance of our antiquities so that they can understand the ingenuity in the creation of these things. We need to understand the significance, the importance of these antiquities, these soapstones, how it relates to the community around where these soapstones were found. We also need to look into the preservation of these soapstones, looking at the security situation in Nigeria right now. Monuments, antiquities need to be protected, because once these things are destroyed or displaced, you can never find them again. They are gone and gone forever. So we have this time to go into research and understand more about these soapstones, how they appeared, how they were made, why they were made, how it relates to the community. Is there any taboo if any of these soaps are destroyed? Does it improve in it doesn't have any link to their agriculture, to fertility, to their way of life, to prosperity? These are things we need to understand so that aspects of our culture are not destroyed, but rather we exploit the ingenuity in them and develop our society. Hello?
Continue, Dr. Joma, we are hearing you.
Okay. So, unlike the other places, like I can also link the lack of depth of information to education. Unlike the southern part where most of them are educated and are into courses like archaeology, ethnography, museum studies, some of these courses, some of these professionals are not really found as much as they are found in the South. But if they are, they would have taken up this as a research or as a project to be able to, disseminate the information and importance of the soapstones. So, and this is some of the challenges that Ibomina has. It needs to be more secured. There needs to be more research. They need to create more awareness of the site. And we need more researchers and professionals in the field of archaeology, ethnography, and related courses, social sciences, that can also go into these soapstone research and see how it can benefit the society at large. I don't know if you have any questions or any comments. Hello?
Yes, there is a comment here saying that Dr. Kolawole Adekola of the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, University of Ibadan, did his PhD work in ACA. His perspective on the ACA soapstone would have been helpful for such webinar. Yes. Okay. I don't know if you have anything to respond to that, Dr. Joe.
Okay, please. Hello. So, can you tell me what's his chat?
Yeah, it's somebody put that Dr. Adekola Kolawole of the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology, University of Ibadan, did his PhD work in ACA. His perspective on the ACA soapstone would have been helpful. Okay, I think that's a notification, and we'll look into it. I'm saying, in the absence of any idea from me, I'm saying that if you have any response to that.
Okay, yes, this is a very interesting, it's very, very interesting. You know, one thing is that we need the researchers on antiquities like these that are related to the museum. The museum will be glad and happy to, you know, work with them. The museum will be glad to, you understand, see their research and their findings. I'm very happy that we have a doctor that have studied SCA soapstones, and I trust that he must have discovered some of these gaps, or been able to discover the gaps of what can be done in some of the things I've highlighted. So I would like Doctor to, you know, bring up some of the issues like I have raised now, how it has been solved, or what he has discovered. The National Museum National Commission for Museums and Monuments will be very happy and will welcome him to share his results and findings with us. It's when we collaborate with researchers and scientists like this that we'll be able to give better services to Commission to bring out the best and to be able to bring out these things for the development of the society. So he's very welcome. I would like him to share some of his observations and some of his findings on site, because we don't have it in our archives. In fact, I'm speaking from Enugu, and hello, I'm speaking from Enugu. So
yes,
if he has,
I've sent you an email. I've sent you an email.
Okay.
No, I forwarded an email just immediately I dropped the call.
Okay. Okay, I will look into that email. But the most important thing right now is that researchers like Doctor that goes into this form of research needs to be funded, and most especially even by the museum itself. But unfortunately, the museum needs more funding from the government. We are still anticipating that the government will appreciate the service of the museum and improve in its funding capacity to be able to handle some of these sites and researches, because they are very important. So
thank you, Dr. Ijema. We would continue with discussions around it and the ACA soapstones, and more importantly, would add to the discussion the Katamba Palace. But we have our keynote speaker present here with us, Professor Patrick Opoku. He's a professor of cultural tourism in the Department of Archaeology and Tourism at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He also specializes in social impact assessment. His other research interests are corporate reputation and stakeholder relations. Prior to his tenure at his university, he has had a stint at the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, Lagos, as an ethnographer between January 1989 and June 1993, where he was rewarded with a letter of commendation for his resourcefulness and drive. He has published widely in his chosen areas of academic endeavor. He was the editor of the Nsukka Journal of the Humanities and current editor, Journal of Tourism and Heritage Study. Professor Patrick Opoku is the founder and president, Association for Tourism Development in Nigeria, an umbrella body for tourism professionals in Nigerian universities, and has served as chairman of the Nigeria Universities Commission accreditation teams, visiting professor, external examiner, and professorial assessor to a number of universities. Professor Opoku has the floor to give us snippets or exposés on Nigeria's heritage yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Welcome, sir, Professor Opoku.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Prof, you're welcome, sir.
Good morning, Professor. Please, can you on your video and unmute yourself, sir?
So, good morning.
Yes, morning, sir. You have the floor.
Unfortunately, my screen appears difficult to share again. I don't know what's happening with your system. But let me just make my presentation, maybe using the paper before me here. The title of my paper is, as indicated, Nigeria's heritage yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I want to first of all start by thanking the organizers for inviting me to speak on this very important topic. And to say that heritage in Nigeria are so numerous. So numerous. And that almost every ethnic group in Nigeria, we have about 250 of them, have the heritage resources that can be promoted. These heritage resources were originally managed through traditional methods. And thereafter, institutional provisions occasioned by colonialism, but this has attendant consequences and challenges. But I believe that the future of Nigeria's heritage will revolve around sustainable heritage management practices, tourism, and ICT technology. Next slide. Heritage connotes inheritance, something bequeathed from the past and preserved as treasure by present generation for posterity. Majority of tourism attractions and destinations in the world today have elements of cultural heritage. And I believe that ICT will provide a platform for preserving and propelling them and ensuring that we have a global visibility and in turn increase tourist motivation to experience Nigeria's heritage. Management of Nigeria's heritage must take cognizance of pre-colonial, colonial, and post-colonial predispositions for preserving these heritage resources and subsequently developing strategies for the future. This paper seeks to evaluate trends in heritage resources, these pictures out, in Nigeria, heritage management in Nigeria, and then examine the strategies that can help to reposition Nigeria's heritage. What I've tried to do essentially is to divide them into phases. Number one phase, which I called yesterday, will be marked by the happenstances between the early beginnings of the peoples of Nigeria and the period we call 1914, when Nigeria was amalgamated as one country, the southern and northern protectorates were amalgamated to make up the nation we call Nigeria today. The second phase, we start with the period we call colonialism, starting from 1914, the period of colonialism, from 1914 to 1960, when Nigeria had its independence. While the third phase, we'll be talking about 1960 to present, which we call today. However, there's every likelihood that we are going to have overlaps here and there, because some of those resources we cherished as our heritage resources continued even after independence. The management of such resources continued in that method, using the traditional method in some areas, even after independence and up to today. However, Nigeria's heritage have a number of problems, particularly the management of the heritage resources. And these have gone through the periods that individuals and communal or communities manage them, through the periods of institutional management that came with colonialism. Many of these resources have either been neglected, abandoned, or destroyed due to ignorance and lack of interest or will. Some are given little or no attention by concerned institutions, necessitating, therefore, the need to explore an enduring strategy for the future. Excuse me. I decided to anchor this study on some theoretical construct because emphasis essentially was to appreciate the subject matter from the point of view of available literature, while the conceptual models of localization and sustainable development, which are predicated on the assumption that development actions become more effective and sustainable if global and local trends and concerns are integrated. This will help boost any efforts to revitalize aspects of Nigeria's heritage as veritable tools for national development and a key factor in sustainable development agenda. The pre-colonial heritage ranged from protected landscapes to water bodies, arts and crafts centers, and all sorts of cultural displays and performances. Much of the landscape that we had in this particular region of Nigeria were seen as sacred resources and therefore protected using religious rights, values, and injunctions. Many of them were seen as sacrosanct. Even water bodies were also seen as sacrosanct, and sometimes the creatures in the water bodies were not even touched because of the fear that the wrath of the gods will affect whoever does anything negative to it. In some cases, there are some examples where fish in some lakes and water bodies were not even harvested because they were believed to represent the souls of the individuals living in those communities. The implication meaning that if one fish dies, then the person whose soul is represented by the fish will also die. That explains why in the past, they were more or less living in harmony with nature, and that maintained stability. However, the threshold has been overwhelmed because given the fact that Nigeria now constitutes a single nation with diverse nationalities, and then the fact of urbanization and development, traditional methods are no longer holding sway, but there's need for collaboration between the traditional methods and modern methods. So there are some examples of heritage resources that are available, but I do not need to mention them. There are so many of them. The Ekbo, your masquerade in Lagos and so on, Daba Festival, Lord Juju and so on. There's so many of them. But Nigeria, as I said earlier, has numerous heritage resources that are available. But I believe that for us to be able to manage those resources, there is need manage them sustainably. That is the right word. There's need for us to integrate both traditional and modern methods to ensure that they are properly secured. And that we also have to anchor them on tourism, because tourism will now provide the resources that will enable us conserve and preserve these resources for the future. Because we believe that tourism will provide the money, and therefore the money will be available to maintain those facilities to enable them attract further visitation. There are also examples of local knowledge systems such as the Ifa divinatory corpus among the Yorubas, the Afa among the Igbo, in CBD writings, then the royal music of the Nupes, developed and introduced by Swede in the 15th century, and then oral traditions such as folk tales, proverbs, idioms, and so on, that were used to transmit cultural knowledge in various parts of Nigeria. All these can help to having the available resources that people have used to ensure that they moved the society forward. However, by the time Europeans began to invade parts of Africa from the 15th century, things started changing. The activities of colonial masters, particularly in mineral resource exploitation, construction of roads, water reservoirs, and housing, etc., exposed many archaeological heritage resources to danger of destruction and looting. Instances abound where Christian missionaries instructed converts to submit objects such as idols, beads, rings, amulets, colorful clothes, and plates used for traditional worship for destruction. Some of these objects were destroyed in reality, while others were transported to various European museums. I remember that one of the sessions in the Humboldt conference that held recently, Chimamanda Adichie was calling on the European nations to repatriate all the heritage resources they took from this part of the world, or pay available requisite compensation, because much of them are now in the museums abroad. More often than not, they'll tell you that the condition in Nigeria no longer suit those objects, whereas those objects were taken from this part of the world. So we are encouraging that even if the debate continues, we want to believe that over time, people across the globe will know the reality or begin to pay us our own fees for what they realize from such loot, because they were taken away from us. And I believe that the right thing is that we get back some of those facilities for our own use here in this part of the world. However, there is a positive side to colonialism, because colonialism also led to the development of modern museums in Nigeria. And the art centers that we see, boards and other parastatals, some of these have helped to bring about streamlined management processes that enable some of our cultural materials to continue to thrive today. A number of them include the Federal Department of Antiquity that was established, and thereafter, National Commission for Museums and Monuments, to ensure that they manage our cultural resources in a manner that they become more sustainable. There's also the Nigerian Tourist Board, and thereafter, Nigerian Tourism Development Corporation. There's also the National Council for Arts and Culture, Center for Black African Arts and Civilization, CBAC, National Troop, National Institute for Cultural Orientation, National Arts Theater, National Art Gallery, and so on. These bodies manage various aspects of our resources. And I believe that they're doing their bit, but they still face challenges which we eventually enumerate later. There are also some policies and cultural provisions and procedural provisions that are being used. One of them is to, first of all, initiate cultural policy that indicated the values of our resources and the need for people to visit Nigeria and appreciate Nigeria the way it is, while maintaining our cultural property and not destroying them. There's also the laws prohibiting illegal trafficking of antiquity, export permit units, that also been established by National Commission for Museums and Monuments to ensure that some of our exhibits no longer, you don't transport them without the museum's approval. There's also the Heritage Directorate, National Commission for Museums and Monuments, at the time thought it wise to begin to also establish a directorate that is specifically targeted at our heritage resources to ensure that they capture them and do the needful to manage them. There's also the listing of heritage resources with outstanding values. Only 2 of such heritage resources in Nigeria have been declared or designated World Heritage Sites by UNESCO. A number of them have also been declared monuments by National Commission for Museums and Monuments. However, there are some resources that I believe have not received the required attention and therefore had little or no historical markers in this part of the world. Number 1 is the Ogbosawa Square in Asaba. This square witnessed the massacre of a minimum of 1,000 persons during the Nigeria-Biafra Civil War. This area is not noted for any historical value. And even if it is recorded by National Commission for Museums and Monuments, it is not popular, and therefore we have not made any effort to promote it as a dark tourism spot. I remember that people at a time, recently, the Pope visited Hiroshima and Nagasaki site in Japan because of the bomb attack that happened in 1946 during the Second World War. But for the fact that those areas were earmarked and specifically designated as sites, such visits may not have happened. But you notice that in this part of the world, some of these are just ignored. There's also a very important spot in Oboleke in northeast of Nsukka, where Major Nzogu, Chukwuma Nzogu, Kaduna Nzogu, was killed in action on Sunday, July 30, 1967. Nzogu was one of the masterminds of the 1966 coup in Nigeria. And that has been a very historical landmark that we need to note, because there is value in that. Unfortunately, that area now becomes more or less a cassava farm with little or nothing to show for it. There's also Ekwegbe, where a poet, Christopher Ifekandu Okibo, was also killed in Ekwegbe within the Suka zone. This area should be earmarked. There's also the Abagana ambush along the Enugu-Onitsha road, involving over 102 convoy of 6,000 military personnel who were killed during the 1968 activities in a Biafran region. I believe that these areas should be earmarked and designated so people for begin to appreciate the implications of war, particularly at this time that Nigeria is into a serious problem facing almost every part of the country. These areas should be earmarked because the younger ones need to see them, begin to appreciate the implications of going to war, and so on and so forth. There's also Uli and other airfields. However, there are some challenges that have faced some parts of this part of the country, particularly in the maintenance of the resources. I know that we have general lack of interest or will to develop the industry, with government and agencies paying more or less lip service. The government places emphasis on other issues, but culture appears to be lagging behind. I want to say that we need to encourage government to begin to think home and think about how to resources. There's also limited funding for heritage conservation and tourism development. So we need to do something about that. The infrastructure is also low in supply. There's also insecurity occasioned by religious intolerance, herdsmen and farmers clashes, and then some of these agitations. These are all issues. There's also poor maintenance culture, and so on and so forth. This has informed the negative image of people who see of this country, and therefore reduce the number of people that want to visit Nigeria. However, we have some way forward. First of all, Nigeria should recognize culture as a sustainable capital, social capital that provides a rallying point for members of society. Improved heritage maintenance and delineation of significant heritage sites like the areas I mentioned with historical markers to promote visitation. If you go to a country like Italy, specifically in Rome, you see some of the historical markers that have been used to designate some sites, and therefore those have been of value. But remember that the obelisks that you see in many open squares in Rome were taken from Egypt, because Egypt had a historical link. At the time, the Roman Empire conquered up to Egypt, and therefore took some of those things and placed them there as historical markers. Those have been areas of attention and attraction. And I believe that some of these areas we have today can equally be earmarked and developed as areas of attraction to enable them attract visitation and subsequently the fund required to manage them. There's also need to digitize selected heritage resources for posterity to ensure global visibility. I also want to encourage that there should be pragmatic policies and strong commitment to heritage management, as well as need to enforce compliance. There's an issue here in this country. Majorly, you see people developing fantastic policies that can compete with any other policy in the world. Unfortunately, in the area of implementation, we find ourselves lagging behind. So there's need for us to have commitment to policies, and then also need to enforce them to ensure that we meet the required global practices. Basic infrastructure is also required, particularly in the areas of transportation, and so on. Accommodation and sustenance. Next one. That's not enough. I want to thank you and to show you my conclusion. So give me a moment. I want to conclude by saying that policymakers must understand the centrality of heritage in the advancement of society and show the interest and will to reposition them. There's also a need to integrate traditional heritage management systems with modern methods. And as I argued, ICT should be deployed in all spheres to preserve, promote, and ensure visibility of heritage. And finally, that there's need to promote heritage tourism to attract funding and preserve the resources, create employment opportunities, and generate income. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Poco, for your insightful presentation. I must say it was. I must say that it was. There were a lot of insightful points you pointed out. And before you leave, I just want to acknowledge some key points you mentioned in your presentation, because usually when we talk about heritage in Nigeria, we're talking about the museums or whatever, and we also make a lot of reference to our heritage, maybe that was stolen in and it's on display at in London, in museums in London, the British Museum, or in Germany, or around the world. But then you specifically now mentioned about the Obe Osowa, because ironically or tragically, today is it's an anniversary. Yes, today is October 5, and it's an anniversary of this tragic event of our civil war. We do not. I have come across that thing on one Facebook post some times ago, but it's not called to national consciousness. It's not in our national discussion. We look at countries like Rwanda after the genocide. You know, they talk about these things that happened to them. Places like Japan, countries like Germany, the country has a reflection of a monument, objects for reflection, or sites to reflect the unfortunate happenings. You talked about the Oboleke, you talked about Abagana massacre, which was, yes, and we talked about the Uli airfields, the Uga airstrip in Aguata local government. We have professionals here. I would want vital response to this, because it's not enough for us to come here and talk about that the British should return the Benin heads, bronze heads, or Germany should return the Benin bronze heads. There are other, I think in some cases, it's called the trauma heritage. These things bring trauma to our national consciousness, but they are there. And we keep making these mistakes here and there, every day, every time out. And it's so, I want us to respond to this.
What further comments or clarification?
Yes.
You know, the arguments have been raging over the years. So I want to see those objects repatriated. But I also know that those museums have made money out of Nigeria over the years. So what prevents them from paying back and giving back? Even if they have them maintained there, we also believe that this will normally pay you rent. And therefore, if you take our material, why not pay for the material on an annual basis? And we see that value, the value of that can add value to the resources that we have here, particularly with respect to maintenance of the ones we have available here. But we also make effort to promote. I remember at a time as early as 1993, Some countries loaned artifacts from this part of, particularly for National Museum. And I was one of those that managed the process. They were exhibited in Japan. They were exhibited in parts of the United States, and then brought back to this country. And I know that some amount of money were earned by National Museum. So if we have those resources, they can come here and watch and appreciate them in situ, because at this point it is now within the context where they were built or where they were produced. And that will give you an idea of the ingenuity of the persons that who lived in this part of the world, even before the coming of the white man. So that by the time they come here, that will now add to the volume of people that want to visit, because they want to experience the original products. But if they're out there, they are no longer your property. You don't earn any money from it, but your ideals and ideas are being showcased and then used to enrich some other persons. So that is one point I feel that we can make. But I also know that in the area of tourism, many heritage areas have been promoted. But how many do we have in this country? Remember that I mentioned that we have only 2 World Heritage Sites designated by UNESCO. The next one that is struggling to be designated is the Ogbunike Cave. The implication is that we have just little or nothing that they've seen as of outstanding values, whereas much of our products, particularly the products of our forebears, are out there in the museums being appreciated by the persons who feel that they know how best to use them. Unfortunately,
Prof, you have a question, Prof. Yes, you said, could you talk about a little more on how collaboration between traditional and modern methods of heritage management can be of help, especially in protecting tangible heritage properties?
Yes. Remember that if we got tangible heritage, remember that many of them are still in the hands of individuals who own them. If you go to palaces, they still maintain what they believe belong to their forebears and their forefathers. Some individuals also keep objects of valuable property, valuable importance to them. And therefore, we should give them the room to utilize the attraction, particularly, I mentioned also that water bodies and groves are seen as sacrosanct by people of this area. And the implication is that people are more afraid to touch anything that they believe has some sacred connotation, as against the one that you protect by legal means or other enforcement approaches. Today, if you tell an average Nigerian to swear by the deity of his village before managing an office, he's likely to begin to do the needful as against just swearing by the Constitution, because he believes that the wrath of the god or the gods of his people will attack him if he goes contrary to the rules of the game. The same thing happens that if you have people whose laws designate or indicate that there's need for you not to cut down particular trees in the forest, that once you cut them, the wrath of the gods will attack. But even if you have rangers who watch them, people will go in the night to cut them. But the gods are believed to be sacrosanct and effective even when you are not there, even when they are not there with you. And therefore, many will say, please let me forget it because the gods will kill. So what I say in effect is that those traditional methods of managing them will still be maintained, while we also allow the institutions are available to take charge and then encourage the local people, while they still talk about their gods, for people to be afraid of those things, then they also come to do some other things that are needful to promote them, to make them more globally visible. So I gave examples of communities. I will mention them. In Enugu State here, there's a group of people, clans called Ntuebenese group. The fish in their lakes and rivers, as I said earlier, are seen as representing the souls of individuals in the community. So you don't even need any modern method to tell them to protect the fish. So their gods will protect them. If the gods are not ready to protect, the people will protect because they know that one person will eventually die, or two or more, depending on the number of fish killed. So that place could become fish sanctuary, where people can now go and watch fish as they live their life from the early ages to their death, as against in areas where you can begin to promote a fishing festival like Arugungu in Kebbi State. You can promote fishing festival here, there. But in Enugu, that particularly in the Ogunese clan, one will encourage you not to promote fishing festival because people will resist it. But you can promote fish watching and then development of fish sanctuary for researchers and other educators and tourists who may want to experience fish in their own original habitats. So these are areas that we feel that we can begin to encourage. But if you designate them, is that understood?
Yes, we have another question. It's saying that how can we make organizations like NGOs have interests in some of museums like Ese Museum, where we talked about research funding into the terracotta and uplifting the state of it, because when we watched the video just before you came up there, and it just looked derelict. It doesn't look glorifying for the first museum in Nigeria. So how can we create more awareness? How can we attract NGO funding to uplift or to upgrade the status of such a institution?
Number one is that even the practitioners in the museum should do their bit, first of all, by ensuring that you project yourself and say where you are, so that others will say, where am I? The others will say that they can come in and help. Because if you don't make noise about your problems, people will not know about your problems. That is number one. Number two, there must be policy in government circle to enable people who support such developments to be given some tax incentives. If, for instance, I know that if I designate some amount of money, dedicate some amount of money to the museum, that instead of being charged, my company being charged a given percentage, maybe 25% interest, I'll be given a rebate for years. There's every likelihood that I will want to go and invest and support that, because that will help to make, first of all, my company viable, and then also support the museum. I also know that the museums can make noise and think about donations. And then think about some other ingenious ways, even promoting lottery and so on, that will attract people's attention and the need for those heritage resources to be maintained. It's just that it appears we are just looking at those objects and they're believing that they are fetish and therefore they shouldn't be part of our history. But I know that they have value, and therefore we need to begin to do a bit to encourage not just NGOs, other private persons and business persons, private practitioners, to support the development of museums. The only thing that you must drum the idea into them, and that you must be in the forefront. And that explains why I said that the practitioners in the museum must be the number one persons that must say their problems. And then we articulate ways and strategies to attract interest. And I remember again that if we digitize some of these project objects and promote them globally, there's every likelihood that you begin to get some grants and support. But you can't just keep quiet in their cocoon and expect something to happen. You must come out. And coming out is number one. What we are doing today, I can say, is impressive. And I want to believe that by the time we talk more, over time we begin to act, because I believe in action. If you talk and talk without walking the talk, then you may not get the required results. So we want to believe that the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, along with your own group and other agencies that manage heritage, will come on board and then develop strategies that enable us articulate the resources we have available, and then plan ways to attract support from the public. And then if we promote visitation, as I said earlier, and people begin to visit SCF, for instance, regularly, the money that will come from there will be used to support that museum. I know that in East Africa, there's a dictum there that wildlife pays and therefore wildlife stays. The implication is that they make money from wildlife, and therefore part of that money will be used to conserve the wildlife to enable it to attract further visitation. So in our own case, we'll now be going to talk about culture. Cultural heritage pays, and therefore cultural heritage should stay. And if it stays, the implication is that the resources you generate from heritage resources because of tourism visitation will be part of what you use to conserve and preserve them and maintain them and put them in good shape. If you go to Rome,
okay.
the resources are
Okay,
beautiful.
yeah. Thank you, Prof, for your good words. Lastly, I want you to give us a parting shot because from the highlights of your speech, you mentioned about the Obe Osowa, and today happens to be the 54th anniversary of that massacre. And that even gives to show that a lot of things like this, we don't tend to talk about it. We don't want to talk about the Civil War, the landmarks from the Civil War. We don't want to talk about it. They are not even mentioned as maybe sites for national cultural heritage. Yes, probably the communities preserve it, but it is not like nationally talked about, not to talk of it being internationally talked about. What do you have to say to that lastly in a few words, sir?
Thank you. I believe that we can't shy away from that because that massacre has been part of our history and you cannot run away from it. People were massacred and they belong to families. And those families will continue to think about those people. Some may be breadwinners, some supporters of the family, and so on. So we need to continue to talk. And I also believe that people learn lessons by history. You know, more often than not, we say that the past is the key to the present. So if we know what happened in the past, you want to ensure that you do not do things that will create more problems that will enable a similar situation to happen. I remember saying that these areas could be regarded as dark tourism spots. Hiroshima and Nagasaki happened how many years ago? 1946, 45, 46. And then we're talking about something that happened in 1966, 65, and so on. And nobody is talking about the 67. And nobody's talking about that. We want to first of all ensure that those areas are earmarked and developed as monuments, not just for you to identify them and place them in historical record, but we also need to begin to talk about them annually, because the spirit of those people, I know, I believe, will still be hanging around seeking succor, because many of them did not commit any crime other than that they were human beings who happened, unfortunately, to be at that spot at that particular time, and therefore were massacred. I want to believe that Nigeria can assuage the sufferings and the feelings of the people of Asaba, as well as parts of Nigeria, Southeast, where those things happened. I also know that if we indicate them and make noise about them over the years, there's every likelihood that even the younger ones clamoring for war will say, please, let us negotiate. While I also call on the government to say, can we dialogue? Because I believe that dialogue is usually the answer to any issue. If you even fight war, at the end of the war, the roundtable discussion will be the solution to the entire problems. And I know that if we have an opportunity to begin to interface with the people of Asaba, even parting words, some kind words will assuage their feelings. And this same thing can happen in parts of Southeast. And even in Nigeria, because even the Asaba wasn't just the Biafran soldiers who were killed, they were the military, the Nigerian soldiers. And those people belong to family, over 6,000 persons. Because I learned that the tank was hit by a bullet and then everything exploded, and over 60,000 soldiers belonging to the Nigerian army died. They are human beings, and this belongs to families. So I believe that we need to begin to think about Nigeria first, and Nigeria in all that we do. But there's need for us to begin to interface and interact, and then dialogue. I believe that through that, we'll find a solution to the problems we face in this country.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Poku. It's a pleasure having you around to drink from your fountain of knowledge. So we would want to release you now. We've really had insightful contributions from you. So we hand over to Dr. Kelechi Ugwanyi for the call to action from vote of thanks for today's proceedings.
Okay, thank you, Samson, and I thank everyone for participating. Thank you, Professor, for that wonderful lecture and the exposure you gave, especially in relation to the way forward for Nigerian heritage. I would want to say that we need to think beyond what we currently do, especially in the direction of the ways that museums and heritage professionals can be more innovative in the 21st century than we are. Look at the situation in Europe, where, like in Britain, they have about 1,900 museums, and they are closing up because they are finding out that they need more money elsewhere than investing in museums. So now we look at the level of poverty in Nigeria, and we look at how government is focusing in other areas of development. So how can museums sustain itself in the next 20, 25 years? So I think what Prof told us about looking elsewhere beyond just waiting for government to get fund. Currently, we have what is called the African World Heritage Fund. And I don't think Nigeria has ever attracted or even applied for such funding. I'm not sure. Those of them in NCMM will be able to tell us. But there are a lot of opportunities. Look at the ways where we can, first of all, look inward and find out how people can be attracted and be attached to what we do as heritage professionals. How can we get Nigerians to understand the needs? How have museums encouraged innovations in research, in technology, in industry? So when we begin to think in this direction, then I think what Prof is telling us about alternative ways and the future of heritage in Nigeria will pay us in the direction of tourism, in the direction of development, in the direction of even human capital development, which Prof spoke about. So I think once we begin to think very innovative about our heritage, once we begin to think very innovative about how heritage can inspire new ways of thinking in terms of development, in terms of industry, in terms of technology, in terms of alternative ways of making income, then heritage as an industry can create an awareness for itself. Like Prof said, if we don't speak, nobody will know that we are here. And I think that is one problem we are having. We're not having enough awareness from people in NCM, especially in the local areas, because we look towards the international arena, but we forgot that we cannot attract such level of tourism if we don't develop the domestic ones within. So I would like to thank everybody. I would like to thank Emerging Professional Group of ICOMOS. I would also like to appreciate ICOMOS Nigeria and ICOMOS International for making it possible to have this conversation. I think, and I believe we'll continue to have this conversation from now going forward. And thank you, Prof, again, for making our time out of your engagements to give us this wonderful lecture. We appreciate your insight, and we'll continue to look back to have this kind of conversation with you from time to time. Thank you, everyone that attended, and I think I may return back to Samson to probably tidy things up. I'm seeing a question. Dr. Kelechi, your opinion about NCMM as regards to African World Heritage Fund is wrong and misleading. The Commission is currently executing some projects under the funds. That's wonderful. I said I'm not sure. So, and when I said I've not seen it, because I follow that funding, And I know Zambia, South Africa, Zimbabwe have made use of that fund a lot. So, but I have not seen Nigeria until this write-up. So maybe I'll check again. So thank you, Godwin, for drawing my attention to that. So Samson, back to you, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you everyone for attending. Today, this moment marks the end of Day 1's proceedings of Heritage NAIJA 2.0. Tomorrow, the conversation will continue 10 a.m. Nigerian time. We'll be talking about heritage laws and practice, the status of heritage laws in urban planning of Nigerian cities. We'll be having Dr. Olutoyin Ayinde, who is the president of the Nigeria Institute of Town Planners. We'll be looking forward to having you all present, and please kindly help us spread the word, reach out to everybody to come attend. Yes, so on behalf of my colleagues at the Emerging Professional Work Group, and more importantly, the organizing committee and our parent body, E-Commerce Nigeria, I declare this session closed. Thanks for attending. Goodbye.